order the Town of Swanton Selectboard Meeting on Tuesday, March 17th at 7 p.m. Could we rise and do the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In that we have what we have going on in the country right now, we are going to try to get folks out of here as expeditiously as possible. If it's not essential, just try to keep your reports brief and to the point. And we have an agenda review. Mark, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would just, I'd like to remove that from the agenda this time.
Okay, that's recreation updates that are being removed. Heather, do you have any changes to the agenda?
I don't have any changes, no, thanks for asking.
No? Gary? Okay. And David, do you have nothing?
Under the upcoming events, I have a couple comments. It changed at that point.
Okay. So, public comments. Moving right along. Minutes from the March 4th, 2020 Select Board Special Organizational Meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from Wednesday, March 4th, organizational meeting.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And animal control, can we have Derek's monthly report? Okay, Derek, what you got for us?
Pretty busy.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, it's going to be busy.
We have several pages, yeah.
I guess want to keep it short, so I would focus on 3-4. I'll turn this over to Swanton Police. We've been to her place before, and it's truly a police issue.
Okay, and you've had cooperation there then?
Well, I just dropped off some more information, because this was an international case I dealt with a couple years ago with this person. She's back at it again, but this time the dogs are in poor condition. And the person actually took the dog on the spot that day that I've been in contact with, just because of the condition of the dog. And I turned that over to Officer Rico, because he's actually got training in animal cruelty. And we're supposed to be getting a outside person come in and do an inspection and probably bring charges up. Last time we went in there, we had to have face masks and bits and everything. I can only go about 10 feet in, but yeah, they did too. So that's ongoing. I got one bite, and that's still confined right now. And I had one adoption out to Christy Bro, golden retriever we took in. I held it for the 4 days and then turned it over to Christy, and the dog got adopted by a person that was interested.
For you personally, are procedures going to be changing under the coronavirus? Anything you want to announce or? Okay.
There's one thing I'd like to mention about that.
The rabies clinic.
Well, no, I was researching on the web, and I was going to tell Derek about this earlier, but as far as dogs go, they don't know yet whether they can carry it or get it. But they caution people that a human that has it could touch the dog's fur, cough on it, and then somebody handling that dog can pick it up that way from the dog. So there is some caution with pets, not just dogs, but any other kind of pet, that you could get it that way.
It's not that they carry it themselves, it's because they've been.
Right.
It's any contact.
Coughed or
Contact.
touched by somebody who had it, and it's possible to get it that way from the pet.
That's not a definite, but that is, a thought at this point.
Right. And they're still researching whether a dog could actually carry it.
Yeah. Anything else you want us to be aware of?
Nope.
And you know how to reach us in a case of emergency.
You know how to reach me.
Yes.
Karen, I'll mention what I was going to say in the upcoming events which relates to.
Go ahead.
Let's say to the camera. The dog licenses have been extended to June 1st. You can register it up to that point instead of April 1st without any late penalty. And the rabies clinic that was scheduled for March 28th has been canceled and rescheduled for May 9th on a Saturday at the same time, 10 to 12 at the highway garage. So those are the two main changes in the animal area.
Is there any way you can get that on the sign out front?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it out there along with other stuff. And it's also gonna be
It's
in
on the
the,
paper too, the
Yeah.
cancellation.
it'll be in the website too.
Yeah, it's really important right now to keep all the social media or, you know, the town website and the doors, you know, to keep people informed of changes because it is not business as usual. Thank you. Thank you, Derek.
All right, have a good night.
You as well. Take care. Stay safe.
I will.
Okay.
I did post that on the Facebook Swanton Vermont group about the rabies
Rabies
clinic and the extended to June, is it July?
First.
June 1st.
On
I just
your
copied
old,
it from a paper, so.
on your Old Town business, I would like to enter into a public hearing for leader evaporator grant application at 7:07 on March 17th. And if we could get some information there?
So I prepared a statement,
Okay.
and I can read that now. Thank you for the opportunity.
Jeff, yeah, for the record, still.
Jeff Smith, leader of Evaporator Company. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
To speak to you tonight regarding the Community Development Block Grant via the Vermont Community Development Program in the town of Swanton. Leader continues to enjoy a tremendous amount of support from the federal, state, and local government, and it's making an impact and it's making a difference today. As we've been discussing, Leader Evaporator has been producing maple equipment continuously in Vermont since 1888. The company's been through its fair share of ups and downs in the last 132 years. However, the current situation is without precedent in the company's history. Leader Evaporator Company is a viable business conducting its operation in a viable industry. The reason we found ourselves in this fundamentally untenable position is twofold. Firstly, competition entered the U.S. market very aggressively. Secondly, management failed to act. The Leader Board of Directors acted in October of 2019 to elect a new company president. The new president restructured the executive management team and enacted a thorough and comprehensive turnaround plan for the business. The turnaround plan is producing significant results and has stabilized the company in the near term. However, the capital reserves are inadequate to fully fund the company turnaround. But for the award of the $1 million Community Development Block Grant, the company will cease to function and the 60 jobs we provide in Vermont will cease to exist. The grant funds will be used to directly support employee payroll to return our 60 employees here in Vermont. The need is critical. The timing of the need is critical. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak on this issue?
I think, yeah, I was gonna say, is there a way that we can kind of break this down to the people on the other side of what this means? I know you said it, this option is going to save jobs in the community, and what this means on the impact of the taxpayers, perhaps.
My understanding is you're just asking for a letter of support and that there is no financial impact upon the taxpayers of Swanton.
Exactly, thank you for explaining that.
I would add, I think we touched on this in the past as well, that this gives Swanton an additional resource for business in the future. If this grant is approved, it's actually a loan to Leader Evaporator, and you, at some point, the select board can have a discussion with Elizabeth relative to how you want the money paid back. The money can go, all of it can go back to the state, or I think the percentages are 50% can come to the town of Swanton and 50 can go back to the state. If you choose to accept the 50%, you then can create a revolving loan fund, and that can be utilized in future years for, Elizabeth had a couple of good suggestions, but future business growth moving forward. So there is, this sort of goes beyond just leader.
Just one time.
It can, yeah, it's more than a one-time deal. It can be long-serving, so.
Thank you.
I think the letter is well written. I think, for me personally, certainly in support. I think we've discussed it a few times, but I think it's a great opportunity to save a very good establishment and jobs, within our community, so.
Thank you.
So there,
I had the opportunity to tour Leader, and I was really impressed with the quality of the facility, and very much so with the people employed there, the quality and background of the employees. It was, for me, a very enlightening experience, and I think they are, basically a vital part of this community. And there's young people employed there, and we want to make sure those people that have skills are retained in the area and have a better opportunity in the future.
So a couple of things. We have the letter that needs to be signed.
And this is not a commitment letter, this is a letter of support, am
This
I
is,
correct?
well, the application has already been submitted.
Right,
But this is a letter of support. There is a separate letter we'll talk about when we get to
okay.
mine.
Just to clarify, this letter is in regard to upcoming legislation at the state, separate from the grant application that could benefit Leader of Everett.
This is
If the
House
state-
Bill 641.
Yeah.
Right, right.
So let's finish with Leader directly. There is a resolution that if you could read that into the record for me, that will be part of the application.
Resolution for VCDP Grant Application Authority, single applicant. Whereas the town of Swanton, hereinafter applicant, is applying for a grant under the Vermont Community Development Program. And whereas it is necessary that an application be made and agreements be entered into with the state of Vermont. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. Number one, that the applicant possesses the legal authority as defined in the State Act 10 VSA 631-8 to apply for the grant and administer the program. And that two, the applicant apply for a grant under terms and conditions of said program and agree thereby to enter into certifications and assurances thereof. And number three, that the applicant has a duly adopted and current municipal plan which is dated September 23rd, 2015. That was when it was adopted. And that the project is consistent with said plan. And number four, the applicant has received documentation from Regional Planning Commission that the project is consistent with the regional plan. And that number five, Elizabeth Nance is hereby authorized to be contact person and as such to provide on behalf of the applicant all documents and information necessary for the completion of said application and to provide such coordination as may be necessary for the said application. And number six, that David Juskavage, town administrator, who is either the chief executive officer as defined by section 10 of the Vermont State Code, section 683-8, section 8, or is the town manager, which he is, the city manager or town administrator, is hereby designated to serve as the authorizing official for the grants management online system and telegrants. And that number seven, it is understood that if the application is funded, the receipt of the VCDP funds as federal funds pass through the state of Vermont may require that an audit of the applicant be conducted under the provisions of the Single Audit Act as amended, and that the VCDP funds may be used to fund only a limited portion of the audit cost. Passed the 17th day of March 2020. And the board is gonna sign this, that the above resolution is a true and correct copy of the resolution as adopted at a meeting of the legislative body held on the 17th day of March 2020 and duly filed. Any questions from anyone?
Did you make a motion to approve that?
I'd like to make, hear a motion to approve this.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, this resolution is approved.
Okay. And then, while you're signing that, the last thing is the letter of support for HB 641, which is the Vermont Employment Growth Incentive Program. It would take it from, it's originally 5 years, 5 to 9 years, it would take it to 3 years. And instead of having to create jobs, it would allow you to retain jobs. That's what, in a nutshell, HB 641 would do.
Do I hear a letter on the, a motion on the support to House Bill 641?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, motion is approved. Anything else under the public hearing?
Can I add one thing? I'm sorry, I didn't share my name with Tim Smith with Franklin County Industrial Development. Because of the coronavirus, the meeting that was gonna happen in April is now moved to June. So, timing is not ideal, but,
The deadlines remain the same though?
it's submitted already, so, it's, everyone's covered, but it's, it'll be a little longer before we know the details and whether it's been approved or not.
Thank you.
On top of all this, let's come back.
Anything else? All right,
Thank you.
we'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing for leader evaporator. And
We did intro with my motion.
it's, well, and I understand I don't need to ask for a motion. I hereby close the public hearing for leader evaporator at 7:20 on on March 17, 2020.
That'll work.
All right, now back to our regular meeting. Library, you're next up. Holly.
How's everyone doing?
Long time no see.
As good as can be.
As of 15 minutes, yeah. So sadly, we closed the library today, and we will be closed until at least the 6th, like many businesses. Which is really sad for us, because we hate cutting programs for people, but it's also a great opportunity to fix things that are broken, or paint stuff, or replace lighting fixtures, and so we're trying to be like excited and see the silver lining in it. One of the things that kind of gut punched us a little bit is that one of our condensers apparently is kaput. And that is not something that we anticipated. So we got a quote from Dixwell Refrigeration that does all of our maintenance and such. And it's going to be, well, I have to think, it's like, according to them, their estimate, it's going to be about $10,000. And we did not put this item into the budget because we did not think it would break. So what I'm asking and hoping for is that the town will help us pay for this in some capacity at least.
I'm gonna show my ignorance here. What is the condenser for?
The AC, air, so the cooling that controls the climate in the adult fiction part of the library, so half of the first floor of the library.
And so the estimate is 10,000 and you're asking for half.
Well, I mean, I would ask for all of it, but I will
Well, and
take.
I'm gonna be honest with you, do you have more than one estimate and quote?
No, because they're the ones who have done all of our maintenance in the past, so.
I mean, because this is not something that's not in the budget. I do not feel comfortable acting on this tonight. And I would request that you can go forward and get, 2 more estimates.
Sure, okay.
So usually what we do, or what has been done previously, is you go out to bid, right? Well, with the town, we go out
Well,
to
and
bid.
see, I'm not,
You should just get, I don't know so much as a bid as an estimate for the repair or replacement plus the work to be done.
I mean, for that, as like a town, as like an arm of like a town department, can we just put it out on like Facebook, our social media, Craigslist?
See,
Can we just ask, or is there a more formal process?
you're unique in that you have that fund you do,
Go find it.
no.
The investment fund?
Yes.
And down.
And the endowment, thank you. So I don't know, being, relatively new to this whole experience on the select board and some of the finer details, I don't know what the protocol there is. And I don't know, as the town budget having already been passed, where that stands. I don't know our status of contingency funds. So we need to do more investigation on this end too.
Okay, so I will go and I will get at least 2 more.
Estimates.
Well, you should send out, for that much money, it should be a request for bids. That is written up and sent to whoever you know, or you could publish it in the paper and advertise that way that you want requests.
And they do that themselves.
Right.
Do you
Okay.
have like a
I'll send you one,
template or?
well, not a template, I could send you one that the highway department uses.
I would love it.
Because there are certain things you have to put in that.
That are required.
Yeah, like, you're not obligated to accept any or all bids.
That would be.
Any of the bids.
The legal
Because-
things.
Yeah, and so I'll email one of those to you, and you'll have to readapt it to the library.
Okay,
And some stuff might not apply, but, like the street links and stuff like that they use, but you need to get more information on that condenser, the specs on it, because you have to be pretty specific on what you're asking for a price for, and what you expect as far as the work goes, and when you want it done. And so those are things you're gonna have to adapt to put in there. And so you need to do more research on the condenser itself and exactly, what power it is. I don't know much about condensers myself. But,
neither do I.
well, that's where the
That's-
research comes in. So you should get a model number off it and that manufacturer, you can research that on the internet and get the specs that way. And if you want to use the same thing. And then put all that, and once you get it written up, if you could email it to me, I'll double check it and make sure you get it all right.
So Caleb,
That's-
David's willing to work with you, on this and help you in ways he can. Now, I do notice the way this is warned, it says "and other library repairs."
Oh, so they weren't sure, there are internal coils in some of the furnaces inside that they patched up, and they weren't able to, it's like they don't know whether to
So
have
it's
to
still all the
completely
AC
replace them.
unit.
Yes, it's all coils
Okay,
related to
alright.
the ACs.
Well, you'd have to specify those in the RFD, so that people know that those have to be repaired, whatever you expect to have done to them. If that's what you want to include in the whole bid. If you want to do that
Or you could do it
separately.
separately.
You might find you'd save money that way too, of course.
Yeah, I can do that. I would say in regards to the investment fund or the endowment, we're already using all of the interest from it and more in order to, well, not pay salaries, but in order to pay for some of the operating for the library already. And so that's already built into, it would be difficult for us and not entirely proper given our investment policy for the library to continue to take more and more money out of the principal that we already have. But I will come back with more information and we can continue to talk about that.
What is the total principal that you have in there, in the endowment fund?
Well, after the past few days, I'm not entirely sure. It's about 600,000, I believe.
Okay.
I have one question, and I don't mean to sound like you know, meanie pants or whatever, but what's gonna happen if you guys are closed? Is there really enough work for all the employees, or are some of the employees going to be able to kind of take a forced vacation kind of thing? Or are you gonna still pay the payrolls?
At the moment, we're gonna continue paying the payrolls, and there's work to be done that we're figuring out in terms of painting, replacing things, and
Okay.
a lot of data entry and stuff that we
Should've
always
been
try to
done.
do while we're
Yeah.
open, but it's much easier to do while we're closed.
Yeah.
So I imagine that of our total number of staff hours, we won't be doing, it's like, I don't think there'll be enough work for the average number of staff hours,
Okay.
but we'll still
Think there'll be
be,
fewer hours by some individuals, or?
I imagine there will end up being fewer hours by some individual, I'm sorry, I'm certain there will be fewer hours by some individuals, but we're still figuring out exactly how we can adapt to the situation and also take advantage of it and try to do more online programs and group meetings and see what we can do, so.
Like
we're-
the add to cart, pick up at door.
Yes.
And this
I've been
is,
hoping
It
for
was-
that for a long time.
Granted, it was your idea a long time ago.
Enosburg is home delivery.
No, we're gonna do that too, so we have volunteers who are going to help us try and make sure that we can get books to people.
at this point, the closure is temporary until April 6th, you said?
And at that point, we will reassess.
Reevaluate like the rest of the world? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you, Carol.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The ACCD grant? Oh, met with Jamie Green. Oh, do you want me to update everyone about the meeting?
historic preservation?
Did I talk to you? I'm sorry, David, I thought I talked to you when we walked around, or Mark.
Yeah.
But we met with the gentleman who is going to be restoring all the windows on the historic side of the building. He's going to remove them, again, barring further play. He's going to remove them to his workshop sometime in the beginning of April. It will take about 18 to 25 months. Weeks, sorry, that's a very long time. 18 to 25 weeks.
It's gonna get colder. Cold and dark.
We will be handing out cartons and blankets to all the children, 18 to 25 weeks. So I submitted his report to Caitlin Corkins at the Agency for Commercial and Community Development.
Commerce and Community
Commerce and Community Development. She says everything looks good.
So are the windows boarded up in the meantime then?
No, he has to wait until later on for the storm windows to be sufficient to,
Okay, so, okay, gotcha,
Okay.
all right.
so hopefully that will be starting soon, barring any further horrible disasters.
And can you email us a copy of the report he did?
Yes, I emailed you Thomas Percy's, but not Jamie's, yes, I
Yeah,
can.
it's all one, right?
Yeah, I will send both, or everyone out.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
You want this?
Newtown business, select roadway for 2020 V-Trans paving grant
Yeah, I was
application.
just talking to Joel a short while ago on the phone, and what he's recommending is BP Road again.
That what?
BP Road for next year, and we may not get the grant because we got one last year, and every year they take turns in different towns to spread the money out, but because there's not enough for every town that usually that applies. And, but we apply anyway because it's also possible that other towns that could apply don't, and there may be enough money there to cover what we want.
And this is the road that had the big washout with the culvert, no?
No, it's right where South River and County Road meet by the railroad track, and then it goes east to Route 707. Yeah, it's a long road and it's got a lot of needs.
And do we need to make any kind of motion on this tonight? Okay, so no
This
action
is
necessary.
just to, once I get the application made, then that'll come in and then approve the application. But in the meantime, Joel wants to get together with his crew and me and figure out the extra stuff that he wants there.
Okay. And the next town business announced federal and state coronavirus information on the town website.
Right, that's posted in two places, on the very first page, the welcome page, and also on the health officer page. And if you click on either of those, it's a federal link for the CDC and also the State Department of Health. And there's plenty of information there that keeps changing and updating all the time. So it's a good resource for information.
And that is, those are actually the suggested sources for information at this point. Unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation out of there, out on the internet. People are already way into all different kinds of scams.
If you
So,
hold your breath 10 seconds, you don't have it. Don't worry.
so at this point, what I think the best source of information is either going to the CDC or to the State Department of Health. Anything else, take with a grain of salt. Community and economic development.
All right, we're about to hit because I got a lot, so I'll try to keep it fairly brief. And so we're gonna start with leader evaporator. And we've already talked about the CDBG grant application as part of the public hearing. Today, Tim Smith, Jeff Smith, and I had a call with Northern Borders Regional Commission. They have their grant application just opened. The letter of interest is due March 31st. And what we are looking to do, or what I'm here to talk to you about, is to apply for a revolving loan fund. The maximum is $350, and we would.
350,000.
I was gonna say, I was just gonna question that. I'm like, wait a minute, is it worth it?
I just want to see if he wasn't paying attention. $350,000. Part of that we would anticipate being earmarked for leader evaporator, and the other part, I've reached out to someone who I'm not prepared to say on camera who that is yet, because we're still talking. But you cannot pass it through to a single company. It has to be divided between at least 2 companies. So we reached out to a second company who would be very interested. What I passed out, so the letter of interest is due on March 31st, which is why we're coming here with not a ton of information. I have talked to Joel, and he is for approving the letter of interest. It puts, you don't have to apply if you read more information and the town doesn't want to apply, you're not obligated to do so. But we do need to get the letter in by March 31st. What I passed out is the information on the revolving loan fund program. You can take it home, read it at your leisure, and ask any questions at future meetings. I just wanted to get that to you. And I'm going to see if Tim has anything further.
So just quickly, back in December, we pulled together a meeting of all potential parties that could assist with leader evaporator. That was December 7th or 10th, I guess it was. And we, at the time, thought we exhausted all of the opportunities for assistance for leader evaporator. When the governor, Karen, you were there, the governor was at leader 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. We, through further discussion, we learned that there's potential for additional assistance through the Northern Borders Regional Commission. It all depended on how we presented it. So the governor was there, as was Joan Goldstein from the Agency of Commerce, and she encouraged us to apply for this as well. So once again, this goes back to the discussion on a revolving loan fund. This would be, could be paid back to the town of Swanton in addition to the CDBG if you're going to go down that route. So it's just it's just one more loan. And the reason we're looking at loans is because that's where it fits. But the loans for leader, these loans would be at a significantly less interest rate than what they're paying now. And that interest rate will make a huge difference in helping them get back on their feet. So it's just another opportunity. It's not a grant to leader, it is a loan to leader. And it is an opportunity to reduce their debt service moving forward so that they have more working capital. And Jeff, if you want to add anything to that?
Any notion associated with reduction in interest rate are funds that are driven directly to the bottom line. By combination of this resource plus the additional resource we discussed earlier, and there's another program that we're working with the Department of Agriculture, puts us in a position to potentially reduce our interest exposure by 4%. That landed impact to the bottom line is about $250,000. So it's significant. And it's by the combination of all these resources and programs has an opportunity to have a significant impact in our ability to put the company on a sound footing and put $3 million worth of payroll into this community annually. But it's going to take a whole host of solutions.
I guess I also want to mention that FCIDC has kindly said that they might be willing to administer the loan, given our capacity. Because they have a revolving loan fund that they
That's
administer.
what I was gonna ask is, what's that put on the table for us, but if they're willing?
So we have an existing revolving loan fund. That's part of the reason why we can't apply for this. Because the first question is, do you have then why don't you use your funds scenario? So Connie Burns in my office has worked for USDA for years, and she administers our loan fund now, does the underwriting, does the oversight, all the proper paperwork and everything else. So we would be more than willing to assist Swanton in getting that up and running as well. We have a work plan in place. We can mark up our work plan for the town to utilize as well. So we're more than willing to assist.
So by administering it, you don't mean you would commingle the two revolving
No,
funds? You keep them
we're
separate?
just administering in terms of personnel, overseeing, doing the proper paperwork,
Mhm.
doing the loan write-up, all that stuff.
So, if I may, I guess I'm really fresh to this, so I don't know a lot of stuff going on. But I was just curious, is there a limit of how much the loan fund can be? Is that what the 350 is?
The 350 is the maximum limit you can get for non-construction loan through Northern Borders. So that's the
Okay.
most we can get.
That's the most you can get through revolving loan. And the other question is, I know Leader Evaporator is interested in part of this, but what happens when it becomes public and other businesses in our community are like, hey, I'd like to be part of that?
As part of the grant application, you have to specify the two businesses. So because we know of one and now I know of the second one, those two would be the two that would be part of the application.
But we could only do one application.
One application, but you have to have at least two businesses. So, and you have to identify who those businesses are, how many jobs would be created or retained. So it's not like we can say, we have Leader over here and we'll go out and find somebody later. You have to know that at the
As part of
So
the
was-
application
so-
process.
And you were able to reach out, is there a way for you to reach all the businesses in our community to see who may be interested?
He's pretty locked in. We're still looking at numbers, but he's pretty locked in, the second one.
At what point do we know when the second one is? You said you weren't ready yet.
I can tell you in executive session, I'm just not
Okay. Yep,
comfortable
that's
on
fine.
camera.
Yep, that's good.
But how would another business know that this was available? They just want to,
They wouldn't, is the short answer. We in the office today, because this came up like at 4:30 this afternoon, when we found out you had to have a second business, and we were like, who in our head could this benefit, thank you. And I made a pit stop on my way in, and it happened to be that business, and I went, oh, he would be perfect for it. So that's how that came about.
And you have a deadline with what you're asking tonight.
That is correct. So I do have a copy of the letter.
And just for clarification, this is just a letter of interest.
Letter of interest only. Obligation.
There's no obligation involved, but you need this done before the application can proceed.
Correct. This needs to be to Northern Borders by the end of the month. So,
I would just add to your question is that once a loan is initiated and you start getting the payback, then it's open to, you can publicize and open it up to any business you want.
Okay.
Um,
Is there like a 1-year wait or something
No.
like that?
Well, by the time you build up enough proceeds, I mean, it's gonna take a year or two to get something substantial. I'm not sure what the payback would be, but it might be 20,000 a month or something, I don't know, so you could, maybe 20,000 a month, maybe, even if you did 10,000 a month, you generate 120,000 in a year that could then be rolled over for other businesses.
I see.
Just a matter of getting the
Okay, so as it's
initial.
being paid off, more becomes available.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Tim, I got a question for you, I don't know if you know the answer or not, but with regard to what we're talking about right now, with this revolving loan fund, and the one that would be set up for leader for the other grant, could those be a common revolving loan fund that would get money from both possibilities?
I think if you establish one loan fund for the town of Swanton, I think both Northern Borders and CDBG or the state of Vermont would be fine with that. I don't know that for a fact, but I don't think they want to, it's not like we have our loan funds with USDA, and it's, that one you could not commingle, you have a certain pot of money. With these two, I think there's a little more flexibility in how you set up your loan fund.
It would seem to make more sense for the town to have it as one.
For one, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion regarding this letter of interest?
I'd make the motion to sign a letter of interest for the town of Swan for the RLF fund.
You're authorizing me to sign a letter.
You, I mean, amend my motion. I make a motion for Elizabeth Nant to sign a letter for the RLF fund in the name of town of Swanton.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you,
I meant
gentlemen.
to say aye, I was in the middle of a sentence.
Okay. Bless you. So,
Two and you're out.
I am happy to announce that both the town and the village received the Rise Vermont Bike Repair Station grant money. Yay. So we just need for you, if you want us to actually take the money, to allow David to sign the grant agreement that says we will put in a bike station. So Rise Vermont is awarding the town of Swanton $1,404.96, which is the amount of the estimate that we received, to support the activities described in the grant proposal, which was to purchase and install a bike repair station. And if you recall, the select board was the select board was going to allow the rec commission to recommend
A location.
You have, so this needs to be signed by the end of April 2020. Within 6 months, we need to do a 250 to 400 word narrative, and if you know me, I can do that pretty quick. And then we just need to send pictures when we're done.
And are there any other costs for installing it? Do we need to do anything, or is that all included in the
That,
cost?
it is included, the installation, there is in kind, the highway department will actually do the installation.
Okay.
But other than that, it's, there is no other cost.
But those are people that already have
Yeah,
their wages in the budget.
yeah, so. Oh, I guess I'll do anything about it.
And then we can do a video of it,
Is it
grand
video?
opening.
Yeah, of the bike repair station.
So do we have to make any kind of motion on this,
I think
Elizabeth?
just to authorize David to sign it.
Okay. I'll let everybody take a look at it first. And this is the bike station we've discussed at previous meetings,
Yep.
Yeah, the
just to let
motion-
everybody know in the TV audience.
The motion should be to approve accepting the money, grant money, and then
And
designating.
and designating you.
Yeah, because in the past, we've had grants where they changed at the last minute, and the select board denied, or refused to accept it because it was costing too much for the town, the match.
So we need to make a motion.
To accept the money and to assign David as the signature. Is that the
Signatory.
signatory? Thank you.
So I make a motion as said.
Do I hear a second?
I'll say that.
Any further
You
discussion?
said it so nice.
Hearing none, the motion's been made and seconded, and the motion carries.
And I'm done. I think that's.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, can I steal 5 minutes under economic development?
Sure.
I know I wasn't officially on it, but I'm trying to, as Elizabeth knows, I'm trying to get out to all the select boards on my yearly visits. And if I can tag team on this, it would be greatly appreciated.
Are you looking for money?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
This is the lead into the next meeting.
No money. Just want to update folks on as to economic development in the county. Obviously, we're in unique times. There seems to be a lot of money that actually is surfacing that could help small business. We're reaching out to business to find out what the coronavirus impacts are. Where is it affecting their supply chain? What's it doing for their workforce? All that. So trying to pull that information together, share it on the state level, and then the state could potentially apply for disaster relief money, if you will, something very similar to that. I did see an email, I'm not sure about how truthful it is, but Facebook has put out $100 million for small business recovery. Devil's in the detail, obviously. I'm on a call tomorrow with Congressman Welch to talk about what they're looking on the national level. I've heard, the president's presenting some recovery dollars as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what the impacts are. And then the other piece is when's the next shoe going to drop relative to the next closing? Are we going to close manufacturing? What is essential services, essential production? Jeff, I don't know if you have anything to share on that, but I spoke to Vermont Precision Tools today. They're working on their policies as well, but they don't know, they do make some medical devices. They don't know if that's going to be enough to stay open. Is that an essential production for some medical tubing and whatnot, or drill bits? So there's a lot of things in limbo. There were some rumors out there that Barry Callebaut was going to be closing for 2 weeks. Confirmed as of today, that is not the case. We're reaching out to all the manufacturers in the county just to talk about what everyone's doing. Limitation of outside travel being, in some businesses, is contained to the 3-county area. Anything beyond that, you need to be checked out before you come back to work. Vermont Precision Tools, once again, it was a very pleasant surprise to hear that out of their 235 employees, only 2 ended up having childcare issues relative to the school closure.
That's until today, until the daycare, governors of the daycare's out.
Oh, is that right?
So I'll find out tomorrow night what
I didn't see that.
So we've tried to be flexible enough to speak for
Monica.
we
And Monica mentioned that they're willing to work.
I think tomorrow might be
A different story.
might be different story.
And then that's the thing, it's always, it's fluid, so, Jeff, you guys,
Yeah, so these are uncharted times by and large, without a tremendous amount of experience. What we've done at Leader is we instituted a 4-part plan, divided into 4 phases based upon whatever points of escalation happen next. The initial phase is the phase 1 we started yesterday morning, and that is wash your hands, practice basic hygiene, some notion of acceptable distance. We are at work as usual. If you feel like you've been exposed, if you're ill, don't come. Don't come to work. We've restricted our travel in and out of, so people coming into the building and us going out to sugar houses, making various and sundry visits, all those have been suspended. Our single most significant point of weakness is somebody driving a truck, making a delivery, and they've been in Boston or New York. So they're gonna stay outside the building. Our goal being to maintain our workforce, particularly now, if you imagine how significant that is to Franklin County with sugar production. If something breaks, if something goes down, they need to be back up in business. It could be $100,000 in an evening. So we have to make sure we're there to serve the sugar maker, or it's a significant financial impact. So phase 2 is divide the workforce into critical and non-critical. Phase 3 is critical at the highest level only. That'd be 2 or 3 people instead of 60. And then phase 4 is we shut it down until all this is resolved.
So along those same phases is that the discussion that a lot of companies are having a hard time finding out is where does unemployment fit into this conversation? Department of Labor does have short-term unemployment, which can offset partial hours. And then there's full-time unemployment and what that benefit might look like, so.
And the Department of Labor and Unemployment are overwhelmed with calls right now.
You're exactly right. My suggestion, I reached out to the state today, my suggestion was they need to do a webinar and let anyone who has questions or wants to get feedback to get on that, as opposed to people calling in. To your point, Karen, that's exactly what I'm hearing is no one can get through, no one can get questions. They have provided a frequently asked question and answer page, but that doesn't, like I got a call from Peerless, what would be the, so they can inform their employees, what would be the average, if someone's making 1,000 a week, what are they gonna get by applying for unemployment? Is it 600, is it 700, is it 500, who knows? So they wanna prepare people and they're not getting the answers to do that. So, as Jeff said, it's uncharted waters and, we're, just playing it by ear and seeing what.
Not addressing the unemployment issue, but are there any resources that some of the small businesses out there should be aware of for information even?
Resources in terms of financial, I think it's too early to say right now. I think that.
What about information?
People are directing, and depending what the information you're referring to, but Department of Labor seems to be the main one for sure. I think it's that seems to be the biggest one. What happens if I shut down? Not only for paying rent. I mean, there's a lot of other smaller, Green Mountain Power chose not to raise their rates. They've delayed that. IRS is talking about delaying that, or the tax return. So there's some individual stuff that might play a role, but big picture, I don't know that there's any one source carrying it.
Not being in that field, I just didn't know if there's resources out there.
I think they're gonna develop as, the
demand is there.
The demand is greater, right, so.
Concern's gonna be so many people are at the subsistence level. So buying milk in a year won't help when you need milk tonight. And I think the employers are gonna have to actively and aggressively, I'm having a teleconference tomorrow at 3 o'clock with somebody not connected in my industry whatsoever to say, what are these best practices? And one of the comments that I'm prepared for is, it may not be exactly what you expected to get for a check, but what is it that you need? Significance to me is their ability to maintain health insurance. And how does that figure into the equation? If there was ever a time when employees need benefits, it's now.
I think the other piece that I'm focused on is, let's say you go out, you're out of work for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. When you come back to work in May 1st, you're not catching up your rent, you're not catching up your heating oil, that's not happening in another page. You go back to work, you're not catching up on that. That catch up is gonna be over a year's period, maybe longer,
We have so many people living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
It's a
We have
struggle.
an emergency fund now for fuel,
Yeah.
and these are people that are still getting paid every week.
Yeah, so that's the key, Mark, is that paycheck, and if you miss 2, you're not getting caught up in 2 weeks. You're gonna get caught up in
Months.
12 or 18 months.
And part of it is we just don't know what's gonna happen. We,
The unknown.
we don't know time frame. Everything's an unknown. Okay, well, thanks for all the wonderful notes.
Yeah, you're welcome. I didn't ask for money though.
Guess we have to look at those small blessings.
Thank you for letting me cut in.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll be back in the near future.
Okay.
So thank you.
With good news.
With good news, yeah, better news.
Better news, sure.
Yeah, now might be about time to segue into the town situation. Good see how,
Well, and now we have to go into
Take care.
executive session for.
no, but that can be discussed.
Thank you, best of luck, everybody, stay healthy.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not affecting anybody's reputation, but if
All
you'd
right,
like
I
to-
mean, because of the employment and the coronavirus, a lot of communities nearby, Georgia was in the paper, I know the village of Swanton, they are closing their town village facilities. People would still be returning to work, but the facilities are not open to the public. And it has been, brought to my attention that that is what we should be doing here in Swanton Town.
And we'll be starting that tomorrow morning.
And that it will go into effect tomorrow morning. Does anybody want to discuss that at all?
Well, I recorded the Amesburg, sorry.
Oh, no, I just want to say
Yesterday, and they did the same thing.
that our office is gonna be closed, but we still are going to receive phone calls and emails. Researchers and appraisers can schedule to make appointments to come in. I already have 4 appointments tomorrow for people that are coming in. If anyone needs a certified copy of a birth or death certificate, it's on our website. You can obtain it there, fill it out. You can either pop it in the mail, you can slide it in the night drop. We have an envelope chute in the front. We'll get it processed as soon as possible back in the mail to you. Like was said earlier, our licensing of dogs is suspended to June 1st. Our rabies clinics will be May 9th. I'm going to have on the front door some information with everyone's email addresses and phone numbers for all of our departments, listers, zoning, economic development, the assistant town clerk, town administrator, with all their emails and telephone numbers if you need to reach any of them. And you can definitely call the office. We're still going to be here 7 to 5 Monday through Friday to assist everybody that we possibly can, as best we can under the circumstances.
And all doors to the facility will be kept locked?
Yes.
And there'll be signage on all the doors,
Yes, there are.
including the handicap?
And there'll
Okay.
be a sign that says the phone number and.
I
email or-
printed a 2-page sheet that gives, explaining why we're doing what we're doing and everything, everyone they need to contact with their phone numbers and emails and the procedures for doing everything. And I'm gonna put a folder on the front door, on the side doors with the information in it stapled together so they can just take with them if they want
I'll
to.
take it with them, okay.
Right, for the numbers, and if it's gonna be on the website, it's going to be, David's gonna put that we're closed on the sign, but we can still call. So we're
Okay.
putting it out there where we can, and it's.
So 868-4421.
4421.
So our apologies to the people out there. It will be a little bit of an inconvenience, but we're doing it for the safety of employees and for the community at large. This is right now temporary, but it's in the best interest of everyone, and it's being followed throughout the state.
And people who have questions on zoning can call the zoning administrator or email her for advice on what to do. And also to be informed of whether the future planning commission and DRB meetings will be held. That's uncertain at this point. But the avenues of information will still be open. And Kathy, I believe, said that if people have something they really need, like birth certificates, things like that, or to research, they can make an appointment, and they'll be screened at the door as far as whether they travel and had illnesses, that sort of thing, before they're allowed to come in. The same thing with zoning, if they had to get something approved in, papers. And then
Well, one
that's
of
the
the
same
things
thing with like,
they were saying at the meeting last night was that people want to get their house refinanced, and part of that is coming in here. And so they would just make appointments to come in.
Oh, that'd be the researchers, or the title
Okay, so
attorneys or title,
researchers,
Yeah,
not-
title
title
searches
people
and
or
stuff,
appraisers
not,
who,
no.
who pretty much, I've talked to a number of them today, so they know that, like I said, I already have 4 appointments for tomorrow.
Have you been out of the country in 2 weeks? Okay, I'm gonna check your thermometer. That's what they do with little families, you have to get your temperature taken as soon as you walk in. Yeah.
you know, it would also be a good idea not to bring any animals in during this
Well,
period, because they could be, on
They're
their fur, could
potentially
be.
hurt.
So this is a copy of what I prepared. I'm gonna put it on each door.
people visiting will be held at an absolute minimum.
Right.
Okay,
So is there a way that you can, you have a laminator, or is that asking too much, to just laminate it and put it on the, so that people aren't touching this and then putting it back?
No,
Or
I'm
does it
putting,
matter?
I'm making copies so they can actually take it.
Okay.
I can't guarantee they're just gonna take it and drop it. I mean,
and all
take it and
the
then put it back
information will
with
be
it.
on the website.
yes, the
There'll
website,
be a
yes.
link to
Yep,
this.
they're,
Right. So, you know, people
mean,
should be
to
taking
start-
advantage.
right, and I think for the first couple of days, putting this out there, I mean, I can laminate one copy, but then it's gonna make them having to either take it or just try and jot down the information, but it is gonna be on the
Take a
website.
photo.
But they could, but not everyone's gonna, some people will, some people won't. But I'm gonna put some out there anyways, stapled together in a folder, hanging right next to my
It would
clothes
be-
sign, letting them take it.
I think it'd be cool.
I don't have a
if you had
laminator
bigger-
unless I go somewhere.
But if you had like a bigger sign that said, office closed, so people could see that, you have one already?
You got one.
She's ready
All
for
they need is
press.
an office closed with the phone number.
Really, I
Giant
agree.
signs.
Yeah.
She's going above and beyond with this.
And I put one of those health signs on, you know.
Now, this is what's gonna go on the door.
Oh,
And then, though, that,
Show the camera.
because
You need to
it
turn
says,
for the
on that.
camera.
because on there it says call the phone number or email the town clerk's office, but that other paper is gonna be more information, like if they need zoning, listers.
Okay.
Then that gives them more, all the. All the email addresses and phone numbers will be on that paper, which this is gonna be laminated so it doesn't get rained on it. And then below it, I'm gonna put a folder where they can take that information.
Okay, that's awesome.
Additional information will
Additional
find it.
information,
Oh, I love
other than, I mean, they can take, just jot down this and call me and I can give them all that information, but if they wanted to take that, they have the option to
Okay, I
take
love
those
it.
two as
Okay,
well.
cool, thank you.
Well, our next is agendas, is expenditures, so we need her for the expenditures. We're keeping you hopping.
Sorry.
Expenditures. Has everybody had the opportunity to look at the general orders?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the general orders, February 19, 2020 to March 17, 2020.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion on the general orders? And if you need time to look at them, say so.
Yeah,
I did look at them
haven't
at home
looked
before I
haven't looked at-
came.
I didn't realize that was what that email was. Okay.
Barry, you good?
Yep.
Okay. So we had a motion to accept them. Did we, and a
Yes.
second?
Seconded it, yeah.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries to accept the general orders. And highway orders?
I'll make a motion as well to accept the highway orders February 19th, 2020 to March 17th, 2020.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
Sound good?
You good with highway, Gary?
Yep, good.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of accepting the highway orders dated February 19th to March 17th, 2020, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion's been made. Motion carries. Payroll. Do I hear a motion to accept the payroll orders?
I'll make a motion to accept payroll orders February 19th, 2020 to March 17th, 2020.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I have a question, just because I'm fresh. Why all the zeros?
Because they're e-checks,
Oh,
they go electronically, they don't actually get a paper check. Some people get a
Okay.
paper check, and that will give you a check number. And then the zeros, it's just it's a direct deposit.
Okay. And would it save us money if we just did direct deposit for all of them?
You're not allowed to just, people have to have this.
They have
correct.
that option.
Because not everyone has a bank account and you can't mandate they get a bank account.
I don't know what Channel 15 they made me get one.
Yeah.
Must be different rules there.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the payroll. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Okay.
Motion carries to accept the payroll orders dated February 19th to March 17th. And we do have applications to review for
We do,
liquor control. So we're going to be entering Liquor Control Commission at 8:08 PM on March 17th. And what do you have for us?
I have 2 renewals, no violations. One is for the VFW Post 778 in Swanton. They have a outside consumption license. They have a 3rd-class liquor license, which is your liquors, and then they have a 1st-class liquor license, which is wine and beer. So we're doing all 3 of those, and there's been no violations for them. And the second one is the Dollar General, and they've just got a regular 2nd-class Mullen, because they just do beer and wine in a store. So it's a different, so those are the 2 that I have, and there's been no violations for either store, and they are both renewals.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve those applications and renewals?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries to accept and approve the applications as presented. And we are leaving the Liquor Control Commission at 8:09 PM on March 17th. Highway Department updates. Joel isn't here, do you have any updates?
Just
David?
what I mentioned before
Okay.
that, Joel and I and Jim Corforman will be working on an application for Beaver
Right.
Road, and also up on French Hill Road this year. The 4 of us will get together on that. They would like, there's a sharp curve in the road that they want to straighten out, and the landowner is agreeable to
He's amenable to
accommodate
it.
it and get his land back where the curve is. And so we will have to work on a process for that.
Okay.
David, if you could keep me in on that meeting as well. that way I can
Oh, sure.
prepare for
Yeah.
the second.
Okay, great. Correspondence, David, any correspondence?
Just one here, it's, I'll briefly mention one that we got in between from Blue Cross, which said that they cover the
Coronavirus?
Yeah. And also from Passive, they increased the amount of money that we pay out for a cyber security breach, with no cost to the town.
With no increased premium?
No. And this is a letter, a thank you letter, you may want to read this from Hank and Molly,
Thank you.
concerning the dedication in this year's town report.
Okay, the letter is dated March 8th, 2020, members of the Swanton Select Board, and it's from Hank and Molly Lambert, and it's a thank you. Dear Select Board members, we are so touched and honored by the dedication of the 2020 Annual Town Report. Know that we are humbled and profoundly grateful for this recognition. More important, thank you for your ongoing support of the efforts of the Swanton Enhancement Project. The potential of Swanton to grow and prosper in ways that are good for every individual in our community is tremendous. Your leadership combined with the vision and energy of the Swanton Enhancement Program are the keys to this success. We feel so fortunate to have played a role in the initial stages of SEP's work and hope that years from now the positive effects will shine through in a thriving Swanton that is a place where people choose to live, work, learn, and play. Our thanks again, Hank and Molly, and we want to thank you for your service again. Thank you.
That was really well written.
And Elizabeth, do you have a correspondence?
I just have a letter from the planning commission that they signed at their February meeting. I don't know if you want to read it into the record or pass it around. Apparently, Mr. Vaughn came to the, it was suggested that he come to the planning commission because he has a project out on New Street to remove the existing trailer homes and replace them with triplex. And he got a little pushback from the state because of a wetlands issue. So the letter, and Heather is on the planning commission, so she can interrupt me at any time. The letter is basically from the planning commission to the select board saying that they are understand the issue with the wetlands, but they are in support of the project. Just so kind of advising you as the select board from the planning commission.
Yeah, it would really greatly benefit our community to have something like that.
Is that taking all the trailers out of there, or just some front
It is.
four? All of them?
Yeah.
Where is it?
It's over.
Corner of New and
Part of
Second.
New and Second.
Thank you. Second, I knew it was on.
Chevalier's old property.
Well, no, it's actually not Chevalier's property.
No, it used to be.
It's,
So there's no action here, this is just an information?
Yes, and I.
Okay, so I'm just gonna pass that for people to take a look at.
And currently, they're not receiving, he's not receiving any rent from them or anything, just because they're in not great shape, and it'd be great to get some.
Okay, do we have any other necessary business?
I had a question on the roof, library roof. That repairs, would that come out of their budget, or is that going over and above their budget that was approved?
I would believe unless because them are over and above, I don't think that was in their budget, I don't.
Well, what they were here tonight for was the AC, it wasn't for the roof.
Yeah, it's a different thing.
But
I frankly do not know enough about how, because they're a different entity than the typical, so I would, defer you to wait until Joel's back in town, because I don't know. so-
Mark went to go see it with James,
And
right?
David and I.
And David?
James and by himself. And James said he didn't think it was as big an issue as it was made out to be, including inside. And Mark and I were there, and Rich Kelly was there with Caleb.
Who
And-
initially saw it and thought it was a big deal?
Well, in the
They
winter,
had
it was
water.
obvious it was.
I mean, from what I gathered, it needs more insulation. It's not a matter of the roof itself, but the air isn't properly trapped,
Well,
and that ice is forming,
warm air gets up there,
Yeah.
it melts it on the edge, and then it freezes.
and ice dams.
Yeah, and then the water backs up under the shingles and drips into the building. But
It's
it's
not
simple
the
to
roof.
correct that, it just needs.
Right, but there was, I don't know if you looked in the stairwell, I did look in the stairwell, there is some water damage there, bubbling of the paint. The tape is starting to pull off from the wall, and
But is it because water travels?
the water was coming down the wall.
And
Yeah.
which room is that in the King's
In the
Daughter?
stairway,
In the
in
stairway?
the stairway going,
Stairway to the attic?
Going downstairs.
The outside
There's the outside
wall
door.
One that isn't
by the
used.
stairway.
You can go upstairs, or you can go outside or downstairs,
The one that's main traffic goes to, or the hidden one?
another one on the backside, towards the church side.
Oh, okay, the used one. Okay.
So it's not covered by in our budget anywhere, it's gonna be over and above those repairs?
It would be on their budget, not ours, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, their budget, but still, it's.
Right, but I don't think
It
it
sounds
was.
like it's less than.
Yeah, I don't think
expected.
it was.
Okay.
And it's right in the middle where the roof breaks between the new building and the old building. If you look in the alley, you'll see it. And then he said he was gonna send his little drone up there to look at the whole roof. So,
Okay, moving on. Public comments, hearing none. David, upcoming events.
no, believe it or not, March 20th, first day of spring. And I was told today by a nurse that in Johnson, there were 2 inches of snow last night.
Well, that's typical spring in Vermont.
Yeah. Thursday, as far as I know, March 26th, the GRB meeting is still on. April 1st, as we mentioned earlier, the April 1st dog license registration is postponed until.
It's now June 1st, correct?
Correct, yeah, and there are no late penalties for waiting until June 1st. And then the rabies clinic was canceled and rescheduled to May 9th on a Saturday, same time and place. Tuesday, April 7 PM here in this room, maybe. Select board meeting, regular select board meeting.
So in recap, all upcoming meetings are going to be held, but they're subject to change because what's going on around us is just continually changing. So just keep an eye on the website and post it here, you know, at the town and on the electronic board. Do I hear?
So wait, I have one more question I forgot about. Is it, can I still talk?
Sure.
Okay. So, I read this again when I got home last time, and I don't.
What is it you read?
Oh, I'm sorry. The Select Board and Village Trustees Special Informational Meeting Draft Minutes that we all approved. And I noticed that there was a discussion that Ed Daniels had made in public comment that wasn't in there. And I didn't know, maybe I didn't look in the right spot. I thought it was in public comment.
That was part of the village, so you need to see the village minutes for that.
Yeah, that's the village.
That was under the village part, yeah.
Because it was directed at the village?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you. That answers that question.
Anything else? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'd like
Do you
to.
have any need for executive session before we do that, though?
Oh, yeah, we do.
For what?
Well, it's here, that's what I'm saying, you're going to adjourn.
If needed, I don't know
I'm
that.
asking, is
Well,
there-
Elizabeth said that she wanted to,
Unless you want me to, we can, I mean, it's not.
there was something with the revolving.
Would you
loan
like to go
fund.
into executive
Yeah.
session?
I would.
All right, then,
I would like to-
do I hear a motion to enter executive
Well,
session?
Yep, it's written.
Oh,
Well, right, but I'm not gonna make the motion.
Okay, good. I make a motion, I move that we find that we enter executive session for the select board to receive confidential legal, personal, contract, or real estate information which a premature disclosure to the general public will clearly place the select board and or others at a substantial disadvantage.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
okay, thank you.
Motion carries. And do I hear another motion?
I make a second motion that we, based on just findings that premature disclosure would place the select board and or others at a substantial disadvantage, we enter an executive session.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. We are now in executive session at 8:22 on March 17th. Thank you.
Never.